everybody, welcome back to the channel. Well, I guess it's time we take a look at the very much requested Thorn SHY-033, their Blancpain 50 Fathoms copy. Let's talk about it. Two 2023 was definitely the year of the 50 Fathoms, and Blancpain made every effort to make sure that the watch world did not forget about it. In a series of 3 what they called acts, they released a different special limited edition 50 Fathoms. And in many ways, I kind of think they had a 4th act to the whole thing. And like Omega before them, they partnered with Swatch and released the Blancpain Swatch 50 Fathoms as well. And like the Moon Swatch before it, it's available in a handful of bright, colorful plastics and is a fun reinterpretation, homage of the original. Now, I'm a dive watch guy. I love my dive watches. I think they're the perfect watch for just about every occasion. For my lifestyle, they can be dressed up, they can be dressed down, but I'm a dive watch guy. I love dive watches. And I really like vintage skin diver type dive watches, like the original 50 Fathoms Aqualung, the original Thorn SHY-033, the 62 Moss from Seiko, those original legend divers from Citizen, you know, the big and small crown Rolex Submariners, even the early Tudor Submariners. Cool stuff. And you can't forget Zodiac. I mean, they're just as legendary as the other two. Well, the popularity of the Blancpain 50 Fathoms over the past year got me looking again online to see what alternatives were available out there. Because, let's face it, there's no way I could afford an actual vintage 50 Fathoms. And there's a couple brands that immediately come up when you start looking. There's the Boliva millship, which is their own original design. It was a prototype that they've released under their archive series here recently. And it definitely looks the part with the Fotina and the highly domed crystal and the 16mm strap. You can definitely see where Boliva was getting their idea for the millships when they developed it. But at a $1,000 price point, that runs a baseline Miyota movement. The Lume on it is not very good and gets bad reviews. And then the 16mm strap on it's a little contentious amongst people. I like it. It holds true with their original design. They didn't modernize it. They left it just how they originally designed it. I think it's cool. The next one is, there's a guy that purchased the brand Thorn SHY-033, and under that brand name, he's kind of reproducing homages to, again, that early Blancpain 50 Fathoms that were sold in the United States under basically a fake company name of Thorn SHY-033. And that was a way to circumvent the Buy American Act. They just took their watches and stamped Thorn SHY-033 on there and imported the Blancpains. The guy bought that brand and he's producing watches that look like the 50 Fathoms. And they're well made. And it's a small company. It'd be cool to support him, but he doesn't produce a whole bunch of them, and they sell out almost immediately when he does make them. And they're a little spendy for what they really are. So that leaves the Chinese. I have the Steel Dive SD1952, and I absolutely love that watch. I wear it a ton, actually. I haven't filmed it yet. The thing's built. It has the feel and the heft and just the build quality of a little bank vault that you wear on your wrist. 300 meters water resistant. Lume that will fry your retinas, and a nice sandblasted satin finish to the case. Sapphire crystal. It's a beautiful watch. They're cool. Now, when I bought the steel dive, it was just a little bit over $100. And I don't know if I was getting a good sale price or if that's just what they were going for then. I do notice now they're approaching $200 for the same exact watch. I think it's worth every penny, even at $200. They're killer watches. And then the other option out there that looked good was a newly released model from a little homage company out of China called Thorn. Now, I have a little experience with Thorn because I have their 369 dialed Black Bay copy. And then the other option out there that looked good was a SHY-033 50 Fathoms copy. It was only $100 and I just had to check it out. And I have to say, I have a couple little nitpicks with this watch, but overall, I love this watch. It's actually proportionally, it's probably closer to the actual vintage 50 Fathoms than the steel dive. The lugs are much thinner, 40 millimeter case diameter, 50 millimeter lug to lug, 20 millimeter lug width, 13.4 millimeters thick, and then the Fotina printed dial. A couple of the things that I really like about the Thorn that they got right, that steel dive didn't quite nail down, was one, the proportions. It looks more correct to the actual vintage Blancpain Aqualung. Thinner lugs, a little thinner, a little daintier on the wrist than the steel dive is. The handset on it is spot on perfect. Nice fat hour hand. And then the Fotina and the Lume color is just got a nice yellowish brown color to it. And the indices on the dial and the bezel, again, have just a nice aged look to it. And that probably brings up my first little nitpick with the Thorn. It's nicely printed, except inexplicably they have put Exploration Road on the dial. Now, I'm not quite sure what that means. To me, on a vintage diver, the name Exploration Road doesn't make a whole lot of sense. My other nitpick is the crystal. They use a mineral glass crystal on this. Thorn, your other watches cost about the same amount of money, and you're putting sapphire on those. Throw a sapphire on this one. Or, if you're trying to keep your prices down, throw an acrylic on there. At least then when I scratch it, I can buff it out. And it would add probably to that whole vintage look that you're going for. Just throw a domed acrylic crystal on there. But in new condition, the crystal's quite pretty. It distorts the dial nicely and everything. And it looks cool. Just wish it was made out of a better material. And my third and final little nitpick on this watch is, again, since this is proportioned probably truer to the vintage watch, the crown is sized in such a way that my chubby hot dog fingers have a hard time articulating the crown. Screwing it in, screwing it out, I have to be kind of careful and also kind of make sure I get a good purchase on it and things like that. It's a small crown. The steel dive crown's huge. It's chunky. I have no problems grabbing a hold of that thing. The threading on the steel dive is fantastic. It picks up instantly. It threads in with no effort. You can feel it kind of cinch down and seal. This, it's a little vague in the threading. It's tiny. It doesn't feel as heavy duty as the steel dive, but it probably emulates the vintage watch a lot more accurately. The supplied NATO strap's a fantastic little strap on it. It's nice and thick, and it's as good as anything I get from Crown and Buckle when I buy a strap from them. Screw down case back, drilled lugs, sandblasted case. It's a cool little watch. I really like it. Outside of my nitpicks, and really there's only one that really matters in my nitpicks, and that's the crystal. Either throw a sapphire crystal on it or throw an acrylic crystal on there, and then I can polish it out if I scratch it. The lume on this watch is great. It's not nearly as good as the steel dive, which is better than most Seikos. This isn't as good as Seiko or Citizen, but it's light years better than anything Pagani Design puts out at $150. The lume lasts through the night. It's legible. It's just not the brightest. It fades pretty quick, but it does remain legible throughout the night and is absolutely acceptable for the price at $100 through AliExpress. They're about $150 through Amazon. Don't buy it on Amazon. Go to AliExpress and order it. It's well put together and kind of what you would expect from a Chinese dive watch copy. The bezel is unidirectional, 120 click, no vertical play. in it. Pagani design. Their bezels are terrible. No backplay. Locks in nice. And it's a little light, maybe, in its rotation. It's certainly easy, but clicks into place like you'd expect. The knurling on the bezel is a little soft. It's not very sharp and doesn't provide a whole lot of traction, but I gotta kind of think it'd be like an actual vintage bezel that's been worn down, rubbing against pockets and cuffs. That's kind of the effect you're getting with this bezel, is it's kind of rounded and wore down almost. And it has the Seiko NH35 movement in it. Nope, this is a fantastic little watch, and it has got a safe place in my watch box. I'm glad I bought it. It's a good addition. And so if a vintage watch is your jam, if you like old skin diver looking watches, dive watches, you want that vintage Blancpain look, but you don't want to mortgage the house to get one, there's your answer. Doing a little grouse hunting today. Beautiful late November day up here in the mountains. I thought I'd get up here, talk about this, and see if we couldn't find a grouse or two. I haven't seen any grouse. I've seen a few deer, but what a beautiful day. Out here in the sun, I don't even need this jacket on right now. It's quite nice. Well, guys, that's it. That's my thoughts on the Thorn SHY-033 Blancpain 50 Fathoms copy. That's a fun little watch. And it seems to be pretty well put together, and it provides all the vintage look you could ask for $100. I like it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you soon.
And you ever wonder if days like these last with one another, with the feeling pass? Would you find out with me if it all starts to crumble? We'll search the pieces for a hope or a it's not for me to decide if I should be the one by your side. And hope we know when it's better to say goodbye.